Because he tells me that the conversation that you had with him was not an easy conversation. He says, Matt, he goes, he was mad at me. He was upset. He cried. He says, but it's everything that I needed to hear. And then you feel guilty because your dad had died. And you feel, oh my God, did he take his life because of me? Did he take his life because of this conversation? I keep hearing the soul that's coming through with the two of you. First of all, where are you guys from?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, first of all, I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Well, right away, there's a soul that's coming through that's saying, I didn't die of suicide. I didn't die of suicide.
Okay.
Who passed of the overdose?
My dad.
Okay, he's here. He's pulling me over to come and speak to you, and he's saying to me, please let them know this wasn't suicide. This wasn't suicide. Because your father has been trying so hard to connect with you. And I've never had a spirit yell at me the way that your father did. Like, I thought he was going to kill me if I didn't come through the screen and tell you that he's here. Because your father says to me, I'm sorry for letting you down. And your dad says to me that he's been trying so hard to get this message to you and to connect with you. He says, because Matt, my son, is so hurt because of the way that I had died. Do you understand that? He says, Matt, he goes, I wasn't proud of my past, and I wasn't proud of the person that I used to be. Because before you were born, your father tells me that he was a party animal here in this world. Do you understand that?
Yep.
He says, I loved women, I loved parties. He goes, and I did everything that I wasn't supposed to do.
That's him.
And I gotta tell you something. I don't know if you know about your father, but he was like a hippie back in the day.
Oh yeah. Nope, definitely.
Like full on, blow on. He goes, Matt, he goes, I didn't have a job. He goes, I didn't know when I was going to work. He goes, yep. I got in trouble with the police. He goes, I got in trouble with my family. But your father tells me that he tried to change his life around when you were born here in this world. But unfortunately, he says, my past would always catch up with me. And your father says to me, I could never escape it. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Now, your father also tells me that you were not raised by him.
Nope. Was not.
He talks about him leaving the family or leaving you and your mom at a young age. Do you understand that?
Yep. Before I was born.
Your father's here to explain everything. Your father just said to me when I'm connecting that from when you were younger, you weren't even allowed to know who he was.
I was not.
Your mom didn't tell you who your dad was.
Not until I was 18 years old.
Because he shows me that now that he's in heaven, he can see all the times you as a little kid asking your mom, you know, who's my dad? Who's my dad? Why won't you tell me who my dad is? And he says to me, Matt, he says, it's because I was not ready to be a father. He says, and I'm glad that she didn't tell him who I was. Because there were so many times when you tried to figure it out on your own and you would ask other family members and you try to put the pieces together.
Yeah. So long.
But I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. Your mom protected you so much from your dad because he was not a good person back in the day. And he's admitting that to me. He says, Matt, he goes, I was on many things. He says, I was addicted to things. He says, I drank. He says, and I had a lot of problems. He goes, the moment that you were born, your mom gave him opportunities to clean up his life. She gave him opportunities to be a part of your life. She gave him opportunities to be a father. She gave him opportunities to get to know you. Because there were times when I see your dad showed up at the house. You don't know about this, but there were times when your dad had showed up and wanted to see you or like wanted to, you know, meet you. And your mom said, absolutely not. You're not coming around my son with alcohol, with drugs, with anything like that. Either you come and you be a man and you be clean, or you're not going to get to know him because my son's not going to know this version of you. Do you understand that?
I do.
He says, and Matt, he goes, I tried. He says, but I couldn't. He says, I couldn't leave my old life aside. He says, and eventually, this is how I died. Your dad's telling me there was so many failed attempts with you trying to find him in the beginning.
There was a lot. I did it for almost 20 years. I spent.
Hello, that's what I'm talking about. Because your father shows me you searching for him and searching for him and searching for him.
Yep.
20 years.
Yep, 20 years.
So
and then I finally found him, and when I finally got to meet him, he passed away, well, like a couple weeks after I met him.
He tells me that you walking through that door and you seeing him for the first time was something that he never even expected. He says that he wants to apologize to you for that. He says, because he was supposed to come and find you. He says, but Matt, he goes, I wasn't brave enough. He says, and I never got the opportunity because I was never sober. He says, and my life had never changed. Your dad says to me, there's one good thing that he can let you know from this is that your mom had changed. She had become a mother. She left her past aside to be there for you. He says, and although, you know, you feel that she wasn't perfect, he says, she changed to be your mom. He says, but I never did. When you met your dad, he says to me, I was not proud of the person that you met. Your father was telling me that when you met him, he was so proud of you.
I told
because there was so much in your life that you had accomplished and you had done things that he never had been able to in all the years that he lived. But he also wants to thank you for your forgiveness. Because he tells me that the conversation that you had with him was not an easy conversation. He says, Matt, he goes, he was mad at me, he was upset, he cried. He says, but it's everything that I needed to hear. And then you feel guilty because your dad had died. And you feel, oh my God, did he take his life because of me? Did he take his life because of this conversation? I'm going to tell you something, okay? And this is very rare that this happens. You spent all those years searching for your dad. And tonight, your dad came searching for you because he's here to talk to you without alcohol, without addiction, without the issues that he had here in this world, to let you know that he's okay. But also thanking you for even acknowledging him within his life. He says to me, you know, sometimes things happen and God allows certain things to happen. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know how they do what they do up in heaven. He was on the way to passing because of the alcoholism, because of the things that he was doing here in this world. I'm going to be honest with you. He already had liver damage. He already had liver issues. It had already happened. But before your dad died, because his soul was destined to pass, I will tell you that God allowed you to have that visit with your dad. And that's something that not everybody gets. Your dad's coming through tonight because he needs you to know that you've said, I don't want to be anything like him. I could never do what my dad did because you've been living with that pain every single day. And your dad said to me that now that he's on the other side, he can even stand in your shoes and he can see the issues that he should have solved when he was here. Because he tells me that there's a part of you that was afraid to be a dad, that was afraid to be a father, that's afraid to have a family, that's afraid to do all of these things because of what you went through with him. Your wife on the side of you?
Yes.
Because he's telling me what I'm connecting. He says, Matt, he says, that's the reason why they have the relationship that they do. And that's the reason why you love your wife so much, because of everything that had happened. So your father says, you know, as much as I have to say that I'm sorry, he says, and I hope that you can forgive me, because I also want to let you know that I'm so proud of everything that you created. He says, I'm so proud to see the relationship that you have with your wife, because he's acknowledging that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You know, this is what's so crazy, okay? Is that you never expected your dad to come through right here and right now.
I did.
I wasn't even supposed to be on this today.
What?
It was just going to be her.
Something told me to do it this way. So yeah.
Someone told me to do this. Wait, what do you mean do it this way? Bring your husband next, bring your husband with you?
Yeah.
He literally was here to let you know this. And your father says to me, listen, I want to let you know from the other side, keep moving forward within your life. He says, enjoy one another. He says, don't let those chapters of your past, he says, come in between the life that you're building, the relationship that you have. He says, the things that you want to happen in your future. He says that I'm stepping forward right here today to let you know that I am at peace on the other side. He says, I made peace with myself. He says, and I have come to terms with every single thing that I have done that was wrong within my life. And I want you to have that same peace because you deserve it.
Thank you.